Welcome to AI to Z. In Season 2, hosted by Anna Frazzetto, we explored bold ideas in AI, tech and human impact. Here's a look back at some of the standout moments from the season.
I've been quoted as saying this, at Gigi, on many podcasts. AI won't replace you, but someone that knows how to use AI will, right? And I think my philosophy of technology, particularly in our industry, this is a human industry, and technology should be enablement, not replacement. I say that time and time again, and that's inclusive of AI. AI can only take you so far. It is still AI has no feeling, right? There is no interpreting data. It is simply using mathematics to give you the most likely outcome. And it has no insights into language. It has no insights into feelings or empathy. And those are the things that create such a powerful connection in our industry. And so when you've got the doomsdayers out there saying, AI is going to take so many jobs and displacement and what have you, that fear is coming from not understanding, in my opinion. And I think the more you understand it, the more you'll learn how to leverage it to help enhance what you already do.
There's a saying, Ann Hamley, who's a marketing expert, she says, AI is a tool. That's it, full stop. And the one holding the tool should treat AI as a party plus one. So if you think of it, AI is the guest we invite into our work, not the one throwing the party. So we have to check the work, we have to ask questions, we have to do research on our own, but think of AI as kind of a plus one guest, not the host, which I thought was a really interesting way to think about or look at AI from that sense. So you're spot on. It is a tool. Now, where I'm seeing a lot of efficiency increases, we'll just talk about sales and marketing for a minute here, with AI, is really in building and qualifying targets. And marketing is seeing a big efficiency on that around lead quality and process acceleration. So I think probably the best example would be email marketing. And it is a channel that continues to yield incredibly high ROI. And with AI, your large target lists for email marketing campaigns, they can now rapidly be segmented and personalized based on the persona and insights and really market data. So if you think of it, personalized marketing has been a trend for a while, and automation and email marketing. Now with AI, you can take those large lists and really enable it to help you. So again, finding those efficiencies.
As Chief Experience Officer, I am responsible for marketing and membership, and that includes all of our kind of digital publishing operations, so the website and email marketing, social media, all of that kind of stuff. And so when we think about AI in that context, there are different examples depending on which part of the experience that you want to look at. I have a different view of experience than other people out there. So let me just tell you what I think it is first. It's the seamless integration of product, marketing, commerce, and service. And so it can be any part of that, whereas I think other people have more narrow definitions of what that is. So any person that's in the digital business and digital marketing or running a site or anything like that, your number one nightmare is something is broken and you don't know it. And that prevents, from members from joining or people putting things into their shopping carts, whatever it is. Historically in my career, that was like what keeps me up at night. And through AI, we now can make headway against something like that, which is we're using a platform now on our site that alerts us to when things are broken. And that kind of automation and letting you know, alerting you to when things are not working properly as an indication that your customers or your website users are experiencing friction. And that's the enemy of customer experience. And so by being able to automate that kind of detection, that's a tremendous improvement in customer experience because people are just trying to do what they want to do. They want to read an article. They want to log in. They want to click on something and have it go somewhere. All of those things that used to be more manual, or you'd find out, 5 hours or 2 days down the road, are things that now can be automated through AI. So that's a big change.
The scope of the application of this technology has moved beyond those sort of pure transactional data, numerical data sets, and now we're crossing over into any data set, and it's we're using it to apply this technology across text, across images, across audio, across anything that we can digitize, anything that we can store in a computer file. These technologies are now able to process and to infer answers from, which is really what these things do. And so, I guess what this sort of latest explosion, this latest milestone in technology is doing for us, is it's allowing us to think creatively about, well, how are we going to use this technology ultimately to deliver value to our customers? I mean, ultimately, it's really making sure we're doing the best we can for our customers, and we're delivering good products and good value and good fit to them, and then also to our colleagues who face off to those customers, and the colleagues who support them, and so it goes. So a lot of it has really created an opportunity for us to think about that whole customer journey, right from identifying what you as a customer may need, what you as a customer are asking for, what you as a customer might have fit as a new idea or a new suggestion, then working at how we can use this technology to make it fit better to your requirements, make the process of how we provision that product or service to you in as streamlined a way as possible. So lots of big brains thinking about lots of big ideas about lots of opportunities. But certainly, when I talk to my colleagues and peers in the bank, we're most excited about how we can use it to augment and add value to the customers and to the people who work with them. I think we've gone past that sort of initial gold rush type mentality where a lot of raw enthusiasm and ambition for the technology, certainly in the first half of the year, is now settling down into a more pragmatic, considered, thought about exactly the challenges that you're talking about. Because one of the things that we've already seen, particularly in the use of the public models, is that the output of these engines is only as good as the data that goes in. And if there is bias in your data, and if there is fault in your data, then inherently there will be bias or fault in the answers that come back to you.
We have built a platform that is really air traffic control for people's relationship building. If you want to network to identify a mentor, a mentee, if you want to network to identify other people in your town to make new friends, if you want to network to identify other startup founders that are, raising their Series A round of capital, we're leveraging AI to help people connect better. So I would say that is what I am most excited about. Human isolation and loneliness are at their peak. We have just been through a global health crisis that has left us feeling very isolated. So if technology can actually help us to connect with each other in a more meaningful way to help solve the human isolation crisis, that's what really excites me. So when it comes to the safety and security of artificial intelligence, it really has to boil down to governance and how it's being executed and how it's being used. You talked about AI for good. And though I spent my whole career in financial services and was a chief compliance officer, I'm now the CEO and founder of a tech company that is literally using technology to help people to connect better. And so we like to say that we're using AI for good because our mission at Keep With is to help people build stronger relationships, right? So the idea that we could be using technology and AI specifically to help people connect more meaningfully at a time when human isolation and loneliness are at their peak and have been declared a health crisis is really important.
My concept of evolutionary intelligence is to say, rather than competing with us, they can be the next invention. Machines made us stronger. Telecommunications allowed us to communicate over long distances. Now we've got something that can actually make us smarter and compensate for the gaps in our understanding of our environment. Let me give you some specific examples. So you got Uncle Louie, and he's been giving you advice to buy stocks all along. And you've got this kind of advisor, and Uncle Louie at Thanksgiving says, "Here's, I got a hot tip. You got to buy this stock." And then the intelligence that is enhanced, perhaps in our glasses, maybe even in our contact lenses, reminds you of the 7 times Uncle Louie has recommended a stock, and that the value of those stocks is now 0, and that you would have lost $100,000 if you took Uncle Louie's advice previously. The other example, of course, is the notion reminding you as you're about to buy a lottery ticket is that you're 400 times more likely to be hit by lightning than to win that particular lottery. So those are little tiny examples. We take for granted that the GPS advisor will give us some good advice on how to drive. That's a very simple, and it has all this data that it's drawn from the environment that we don't have about traffic jams far ahead, et cetera. So basically think of this when we're making decisions in our lives, an advisory system that draws on knowledge from all around the world and the internet to give us advice, and not to tell us what to do, but say, well, here are 3 options, and here are the odds that you'll achieve what you want on each of those 3 options.
Transformation, that's a big word, right? And I think I broke it down into several kind of layers, so to speak. I guess the first question is we need to define what transformation really means, right, for the company, right? And then determine what kind of impact that company wants to have or create. And then, because many times we use it so many times that we want to do transformation, and it whether it's digital, whether it's enterprise, whether it's, growth, whatever it is. And then to me, a transformational leader, once they've done that, to say, what does it mean for the company? How do we then measure success? That in itself, for me, is transformation, right? Because you need to know what you're trying to solve for, right? And then you then define what the framework that applies to that specific situation is. And I think that's what I would say that is what it is like to be a transformation, is define what the problem you're trying to solve, how you're going to solve it with them, and then agree that that is exactly what the expectation is, right? As you and I, you're in the services industry, you probably know why, when you're doing debriefs of clients, why they haven't been successful at doing X or executing Y, is often the starting point is they have not defined what the starting point is, right? And then don't know what the end is going to look like. So we need to define what that is and how we're going to achieve it, right? Operational excellence, helping the top line or bottom line, whatever that element is. And then the last thing is about communications. You've got to communicate and set the expectation that this is what we are going to do. This is what we are going to do together. This is what your role is going to be, right? As in what that change role is going to be, and then kind of go through it, go towards it. The other piece of it that we need to talk about is really, as you define that, it's transformation in whichever facet, kind, flavor that we put it, has got to have the support from the top, including the board of directors, right? It is not a side project. It's not a project that somebody can do and say, okay, well, I'm doing it as well as, other things. It's got to gain the support from, the top onwards, as they're able to do it. And so any great transformation leader or organizations or teams are able to really break that down and help us articulate what that is. So to me, that's the simple, framework and logic that I use. Communication, support from the top, defining what success looks like, and communication. Communicate. Change agent. Change management is huge. So you've got to be able to be that change agent for the organization. This is human psychology. Once you've done all the human psychology, technology or process change is secondary. the biggest piece of any transformation and the hardest is changing minds and behaviors of people. And once you've done that, then it becomes, you'd be surprised how long that takes. But once you've been able to convince people and they see the benefit, you'd be surprised at how quickly it becomes a pull versus a push.
Now, Schlumberger has rebranded to SLB, and we've got a lot of technical folks that I run our corporate programs for their recognition, development, and strategic directions that we have for this group.
Great. So, Pearl, you and I had a chance to meet at a Women in Tech conference, which was a lot of fun. We could talk about that in a little bit. But one of the things I wanted to start off with is that I've noticed that SLB has recently rebranded. So can you share the reasons why and what your organization was targeting as a key outcome for this new brand? Because that's a big step for any company to kind of go through that.
Yeah, it was a big splash. There was a lot of work that went behind it. And in fact, I wasn't a part of the actual rebranding definition, but as an employee and a part of our SLB leadership, it's just been great to change because Schlumberger was known heavily, of course, as an oilfield services organization. We are the biggest service company for companies like ExxonMobil and BP and Shell. Those are our customers. And of course, with the importance of the energy transition and decarbonization, we actually have a lot of competencies and skills that can be applied not just for oil and gas, but beyond. So the rebranding, what's great about it, it's the short words around it is that SLB is a global technology company is driving energy innovation for a balanced planet. And what's great about this new brand is us being a global technology company is who we were in the past too. It's not a big change of our identity. It's maybe a change externally of how we are seen in our identity, but in reality, we've been that for 90 years, close to 100 years, driving technology for different energy needs. And, in the past, it was heavily focused on oil and gas. We will still continue to do that, but the strategy is really around driving energy innovation to accelerate the energy transition, which is exactly what we need for our planet. So I'm really excited about it. It's very timely, but it's also very accurate of who we are. We're not trying to change who we are. The reactions internally have been fantastic because, again, it feels correct. It feels like we're not trying to change our identity of what we do. However, we are driving cultural changes towards the focus and the priorities on the energy transition, the decarbonization, the things that we need for our future with respect to the balanced planet. So it's really been great, both externally and internally, for attracting and retaining talent, let's say.
These days are totally different than what we knew even 5 years ago, right? The landscape has changed. And I'd like to say we're looking for the best talent, not the right talent, because right has a connotation of bias a little bit too, but the best talent with the right skills at the right time in the right place, right? And so what we have found in the last couple of years, that's there's probably two opportunities that we have found that is finding a little bit challenging to acquire or appeal to the talent that we're looking for, both locally and globally. And one is ensuring that we showcase and are able to articulate our Chevron narrative. So it's no secret that oil and gas has some positive and some negative connotation, depending on who you are, where you live, maybe. But we want to make sure that people understand the narrative and the employee value proposition that comes with working for an energy company that powers human energy for the world. So take a moment for that. We try to articulate the impact an employee can have on the world and bringing energy to the world. Articulating that, though, can be a challenge from time to time, given with making sure that we're moving in the directions of new energies as well as a traditional oil and gas. So that's one opportunity that we find makes it a little challenging to appeal to the right and the best talent. The second thing we find that can be a challenge is ensuring that the candidate can see themselves with a career at Chevron. That doesn't mean you have to be here 25 years like I have, but what kind of career and development and experience can you gain at Chevron? And that is tricky because the workforce, the talent pool, has some different drivers, right? Some people want 100% flexibility working from home. Some people need the hybrid. Some people want to work for a couple of years in a company and then leave. So what is that employment model that speaks to multiple demographics, again, locally and globally? So those are a couple of things we're finding a bit challenging, but we're up for the challenge.
If I spend more time managing my emotions, with these devices and with the consumption of various media and other apps, at the expense of connecting with others, a couple things happen. One, I can't soothe myself without it, right? So I learn to use media as an emotional tool, an emotional regulator. Number one. Number two, I preferentially choose connecting on this device because I don't develop the social skills I need to connect with others. I'm constantly amazed at this new field that's evolving called friendship coaches, right? So there are people who are friendship coaches, right? So they help young people learn how to make friends, which, to me is sort of shocking. But you start to think about it, you can imagine a world where maybe we've lost that skill. We haven't developed that very well. So as I use more and more technology, I'm connecting less face-to-face with other humans, regulating my emotions through technology. I begin to multitask more. I begin to stress the prefrontal cortex, an important part of the brain, which we can talk about, which is responsible for regulating our emotions and tamping down and controlling our reward centers. And I begin to become more depressed, more anxious, ultimately more lonely. And that's where we start to get into physical and mental health consequences. So these are really profound issues. And while I don't think we can blame Steve Jobs and the iPhone for all the increases in anxiety and depression over the last 10 years, we have had double-digit increases in just about every category of mental illness. Anxiety, depression, attention deficit disorder, substance use, tragically suicide, during a period that correlates very highly with our adoption of technology. And I don't think that's unrelated.
Thanks for joining us on the AI to Z podcast with Anna Frazzetto. If you found value in today's episode, consider following for more insightful STEM discussions. We'll be back with another deep dive. Until then.